Hi, and welcome to Helen Dudney and the Complaining Cow consumer show on East London Radio. And today I have with me Juliet Coley, who is an award-winning educator and a lot more besides. So we're going to talk about masses and masses of stuff. And I'm really not quite sure where I'm going to start. But let's start with welcoming Juliet and saying hello. Hello, Juliet.
Hey, Helen. Hi.
So, Juliet, tell me a little bit about your whole career and where it started.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Back in the 80s, my grandmother was a Pentecostal minister. Went to church and clapped our hands and jumped up and down and had a great time. I went to work for The Voice newspaper, which at that time was Britain's, only black newspaper. Someone came down to The Voice and said that they'd been told that there was somebody who wrote the gospel column, which was called Soul Stones at the time, and performed. I used to write and perform Christian plays and do them in prisons. And this person was from Television South, and she approached me and said that I'd been recommended to be a presenter on Britain's first black gospel show, basically. It was a pilot that they wanted to run on Channel 4. I ended up getting the job. I recorded programs from 1986 to 1992 in their Southampton studio, where they used to make a children's program called Motormouth. And then TVS lost their license. So they lost their license and it went to Meridian. So the program died with it. After that, I decided that I wanted to become a teacher because there was a lot of issues around black boys and underachievement. And I thought I could save the world. So after university, I went to Central School of Speech and Drama. and
it was a very good course.
Sound familiar, Helen?
Just a little bit.
It's the Royal
Central now, yeah.
School of Speech and Drama. I went there and did a degree in drama education, and then I did a PGCE in English and Media, and got a job in a secondary school in Tottenham, and I stayed there for 21 years.
Tell me a little bit more about the school, because it wasn't an easy school.
When you do a PGC, you do placements in different schools. And I did my first placement in Whitechapel, and the school was primarily Asian. And there was a thing about little Asian boys that didn't respect women. So, I find it strange telling kids to be quiet, and they tell me to shut up. And it was like, what? I'm not liking this. I'm not liking this. I don't know if I'm going to do this after I finish my PGC. But my second placement was in under-resourced, I think is what I like to term this school, under-resourced Tottenham.
Oh, no.
And it was primarily African, Caribbean, Turkish, primarily boys. It was mixed. It was rough. It was, I remember walking through the school gates and the kids saying, "You're right, miss, what's that?" And it was completely different from how I was educated, and the language was different. They used words like nang and peng and whatever, and I'd never used those kind of things. We used to say that's wicked being good, not wicked being bad. It was a whole kind of culture shock for me, but I felt at home. I really enjoyed my placement there. The sad thing about the school was that the GCSE results were dire. You were talking about, probably, I don't know, less than 5% of the children getting 5 or more A star to C grade. That didn't even include English and maths. So it was dire, but it felt like family. It felt like community. I felt like when I was teaching and telling them off and doing what I was doing, I felt like a mum more than a teacher. Everybody got fed. It was just a whole different culture that I really, really enjoyed. I had 2 young children at the time. I think my son was about 1. I think he was 1, and my daughter was about 5. But, I'd come in on a Saturday to help, and I'd bring them in, they'd hang around in the staff room and stuff. The whole kind of ethos about this school was really great. And one of the deputy heads said to me, "Oh, we love you, Juliet. We want you to apply for a job there." And I did, and I stayed for 21 years.
That's a long time, but
the results improved, school improved.
Yeah, because you progressed.
But I went on the journey. I was on a journey with the school. Yeah.
What roles did you have in the school?
Okay, so I started off at this school as a beginner teacher coming from university. I then became an NQT, And during my period of NQT, the head nominated me for best new teacher in a secondary school, which was like, oh, really? And I was approached by the teacher training agency to film a video that would help train new teachers called Juliet How to Teach English. So that was an honour in itself. I then, in my first year, well, before I hit year one, I became deputy head of the year. But in year two, I was head of year, which meant that I took a year group through from year 7 to 11 for their whole journey. I introduced the first ever graduation and prom. So they did prom for the first time, because prior to that, the children used to do graduation in the sports hall, and they went on this bang down boat, at the end of their 5 years. And I said, no, we've got to do it a bit better than that. And we did the first ever prom at Ali Pali, and it was amazing. After that, I became assistant head. I took a year out because I kind of felt it was too much, and I went and worked for ITN. I was shortlisted from 6,000 people to 2, and I got a London spot at ITV News, and I did broadcast journalism for a year there. But I absolutely hated it. I really, really hated it. And,
did you? Why did you hate it?
I hated it because when I had the interview, one of the head of news said to me, they want to give me the place, but they don't think I could be managed. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, you're coming from a school where you're an assistant head, you've got your own office, we hot desk here, you seem very, confident and whatever. Maybe this job is too small for me. And I thought, but I wouldn't have applied if I wasn't, please, no, I can be managed. Please, give me the job. And in the end, they gave me the job. But the problem I had was I promised that I could be managed. So when I faced certain difficulties, because there was a lot of people in the newsroom that were very arrogant, they were very rude, they'd phone up, and news editors at the time was called Simon. And they wouldn't say hello, how are you when I answer the phone. They'd say Simon, just like that, and because I promised I could be managed, I had to hold it down. So for at least probably about 6-7 months, I shut my mouth and was very nice and smiley and whatever. I didn't want to challenge things. I was young, I was black. There weren't many black people in the newsroom, and they did have a black news reporter who hated my guts. He hated my guts because I obviously was a challenge. So you come in and you had to hot desk. I'd never hot desk before. You grab a chair and sit down. Whenever I sat down on a chair to hot desk, I'd go to the toilet and she'd move her stuff in my seat, and it was like, I couldn't even tell her to get out of my seat because I promised I'd be managed. So it was really, really difficult. And it came to the end and I thought, they did like a review, you talk about your experience and how you are, and they decided they're going to keep you on or not. But by then, my head at my school had rang me every month saying, are you ready to come back yet? Are you ready to come back yet? He actually cried. He actually cried when I said I was leaving. And he kept saying, are you ready to come back yet? And it got to month, I think it was about month 10. And I said, yes, I'm ready. But I only want 3 days a week. I only want blah, blah, blah. And he gave me all the things that I wanted. So before I had my exit interview for ITN, I knew that my job was secure back in school. So when I sat in the exit meeting with the head of news, the head of ITV News, and all the other bigwigs, I was ready for them. I was gunning for them. So they were saying, oh, how was your experience, Juliet? Excellent. And I said, crap, absolute crap. I said, you call yourself a London news station. And I waded in big and bad. And I really gave them what's what. Because obviously, as a young black woman, I'm working for ITV News in London, and I want to see some black stories. I saw a story where there was a black mother who had dementia, who got lost in Lewisham or whatever. And the choice was to film a story about a boat going across the Thames, as opposed to that story. Every story, at the time when I was at ITV News, gun crime and knife crime was an epidemic. And any stories, I was flung down to Peckham, do the story. But obviously, I wasn't a big-time reporter. I was a trainee. So I'd get all the information, and then somebody would take my information and then use my package, if that makes sense, which is cool, because I'm learning. It's not a problem. But I gave it to the head of news at ITN and told them, what I thought of the channel and stuff, to the point where at the end of the exit interview, where I felt fine, and I'm going anyway, they asked me to wait behind and said that they've heard what I've said and they're they're considering giving me a post as assistant news editor. I was like, what? What? I'd already got my job, job back. And funny enough, if I didn't have my job back, I'd have been all polite and nice and nothing would have come of it. Do you know what I mean? In the end, I made a decision to go back to school because I kept saying I didn't understand why I went through that journey of going to ITN, getting on, because I'm one of those that thinks, why has that happened? Why is your life taking that direction? I left ITN offices, which is on Gray's Inn Road, right, after my interview, and I looked up at the side road. It was called Coley Street, right? No word of a lie, which is my surname. And I thought, oh my God, it's a sign, it's a sign. I'm going to get this job, blah, blah, blah. And when I got the job, and I hated the whole journey, I kept saying, why has this happened to me? Why have I gone down this route for nothing to come of it? And then I actually realized the reason why I went on that journey was to realize that my role was to actually be a teacher, actually help people. Because at the time I was at ITN, I remember a news story came through the telex type of machine. It was a girl who'd been shot dead in a wine bar in Tottenham. And when the picture came through, it was someone I'd taught at my school, and she'd been killed in a club in Tottenham. And they wanted to send me to do the story, and I just didn't want to do it. And I kind of realized all that made me realize that, you know what, your job isn't to tell the story, it's to work with those children before the story becomes a negative one. And I was just excited to go back. So I went back to school, was still given my post as assistant head, and then became a deputy head, and then became a senior deputy head. There's nowhere else to put me, so they gave me titles and gave me more money. And then, I retired due to ill health. So yeah, that's kind of my journey, really.
Tell me about the Everybody Dreams project.
Prior to becoming a deputy head, one of my roles, I was an English teacher first and foremost, and then I was given a promotion to be head of citizenship. The government wanted everybody to know about citizenship. They wanted everybody to know about charity, law and order, police, courts, blah, blah, blah. And one of the components of that subject was doing an active citizenship project. I would teach the subject citizenship and then do lots of community projects. And one of the community projects we did was a project called Value Life, which was an anti-gun and knife crime campaign. And the school actually won a Queen's Award, which is like an equivalent to an MBE, for that campaign, which ran for 10 years. And it was the children coming together and organising a anti-gun and knife crime march. So we marched up to Bruce Grove for the first time. The second year we marched to Tottenham Hotspur. The third year we marched to Wood Green, and we involved a lot of primary and secondary schools in the borough on the project. So I was known for doing a lot of that type of stuff, and the kids were empowered, they were excited, and it was a great way to kind of use the energy that usually would be focused on negativity to focus it on positivity. So we did a lot of stuff with the children that have made them go on to greater things. Anyway, the London riots happened, which started in Tottenham after the murder of Mark Duggan. It happened during the summer, and I remember, seeing the television images of burning buses, rioters, and Tottenham didn't come out really well in that, considering they had the 80s riots with the Boardwalk Farm stuff as well, as historic. And I remember coming back to school in the September, and a group of kids cornered me, in my office to say, Miss, you need to help us, I said, what? We want to do something to change the image of Tottenham. We don't want to write our applications for college, and it says Tottenham N15 on there, because all people know is the riots and stuff. So I was saying, what do you want to do? Anything, miss. Can we do another Value Life? Can we do this? Can we do that? Whatever. Anyway, I had a kind of meeting with the children officially, and came up with the idea of doing a song for Tottenham, and what I recognised was that the following year, because this was 2011, 2012 with the Olympics, and what would happen is that the press would come back to Tottenham in 2011 to see what was different, see if anything had changed. And I thought that if we did a campaign like a song for Tottenham, then we could make some kind of difference, and more importantly, make the children feel good about themselves. So I recruited the head of music, I recruited our technician, and my brother's a singer, so I got him involved in the project as a project coordinator. And a friend of mine had just done a charity single for Haiti, and I asked him if he'd help us. He's a producer, and he has produced Stormzy. He was the music director for Emily Sandé, so he's very, very experienced. So I got them, I spoke to the head, we sat down and said, look, Tony, we're used to doing this, we're used to doing that. Let's do a song for Tottenham. And he was down with it. He was excited. He said, yeah, let's go for it. And let's get but I wanted the kids, front and center of this project. We call the project Everybody Dreams, because everybody does dream. And I set a challenge for the school to get photographed, the school children, to get a celebrity photograph with our sign saying Everybody Dreams. It was similar to I Love Tottenham sign. Anyway, I set the challenge and I offered up a mini iPad to anybody who got the best celebrity, because we worked on the principle that everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And by the next weekend, a group of kids had gone down to the BAFTAs. They've got all the Coronation Street cars, they've got Ricky Gervais, they've got all the Holby City cars. I had in front of me at least 60 pictures of celebrities holding our sign. They'd gone down, made their way to the front of the barriers at the BAFTAs, and was saying, help Tottenham, call from Tottenham. And the celebrities came over and said, what? And they gave them the sign and they photographed them. So it was like, oh my God. So then I said, right, let's get Harry and Gay Council involved. We need them back in the council. And I had a meeting with the kids and Harry and Gay Council, and we told them our ideas. And the head of PR at Harry and Gay Council said, you're never going to get any celebrities, supporting it. That's the problem. I said, well, here's a book of 60. And I threw the book at him.
Take that.
60 people. And they were shocked. And at that point, they decided they were supporting our campaign. We became their hold music. So you phone Harry and Gay Council and ask for parking, you can hear our song on there. They were amazing. The kids performed like the councillors. One of them actually knew someone who knew Jessica Ennis and the Olympic stars, so got the Olympic stars to hold sign. I then went down to City Hall and said, Boris, you need to come to our school and hear our song. His PR person said, oh, he's very, very busy. I said, well, the school will come down here and we'll bring the press here. So you've got a choice. Boris came down to Tottenham, and Boris came to our school and heard the kids sing the song. And then we put the song up on YouTube, and I got a phone call from someone who said that his name is Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics. Mm-hmm. Can he speak to Juliet Coley? And I said, very funny, and I rang the phone down. And the phone rang again. Please don't put the phone down. Here's my number, 001, and it was a Hollywood number. And I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? I said, I'll call you back. I phoned him back. It was Dave Stewart, who said that he's heard the song, he loves it, he wants to mix it in his Hollywood studios for free. So I gave him the song, I gave him the files, and I told the kids, and the kids said, who's Dave Stewart? Who's Dave Stewart? Oh my God. Dave Stewart came to the UK, he invited the kids to the hospital club, and they sang the song there. It was surreal, Helen. And a lot of the children, it's funny because, you've got kids going to your school who had been part of the project, applied to the Brit school, and got a place. So they left our school and went to study at the Brits. Do you know what I mean? So it was amazing. And then the year after the riots, on the anniversary of the riots, shut down the whole of Tottenham High Road and did a flash mob. I remember TfL saying to me, no, we can't shut it down, sorry. I said, then you're going to run over, 400 kids. So it's your choice, because we're doing it whether you like it or not. And in the end, they gave us permission. So it's all documented on YouTube. It was a great experience. We won quite a few awards for the project, but more importantly than awards, it made the children feel good about where they lived. It made them feel good about themselves. It gave them confidence that they could be part of change. When something negative happens, it could be part of something positive. I'm really, really proud of that. So yeah, that's Everybody Dreams for you.
Yeah. So you should be proud of you. I remember sharing that video all those years ago.
Yeah,
it feels like some time ago now. Tell me, I can see here that I know that you're a wise woman, but you got an award of the wise woman a few years ago. Tell me a bit more about that.
Well, I've been blessed to say that I've won quite a few awards, but no man is an island, and you don't do it by yourself. And it's a lot of the projects I've done with lots of people. Why I've won a Wise Woman Award. I won a Harry and Gay Council Award for Outstanding Educator. I won a British Citizenship Award last year, actually, for my work within the community. Again, you can't do it on your own. So I kind of feel a bit embarrassed, but I plug it as an email ender, because it encourages people to support the other things that I've been doing. It isn't really about the awards, although they're great. I mean, I got invited to Buckingham Palace, the garden party, and I thought, I don't know about that. But my mum of the Windrush generation was so excited. It was like, wow, sometimes you don't even realize the impact you have on other people. So it's not sometimes about yourself. And I know my mum has made lots of sacrifices for me in terms of looking after my children when I'm doing this, in terms of looking after me when I've been sick. So sometimes all these awards and stuff isn't really about you. It's about all of those people that have helped contribute to making you receive this award. So like the Wise Women Award was for my work within the community, the Everybody Dreams, the Value Life stuff that I've done, and so on and so forth. But again, I said before and I repeat, no man's an island. And I've had great people. I've been blessed to work with great people that have helped and contributed to making a lot of the stuff that I do a success.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is always about the support, isn't it? It's like any award ceremony, isn't it? You still hear the people thanking everybody who made it possible.
But it's absolutely true, because I couldn't do it on my own. Yeah.
Tell me, I mean, you touched on it there about your ill health. I mean, that's partly why you actually left teaching, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'm still standing, is what I can say. I'm allowed to sing it. You have to pay royalties.
You absolutely can. Yes, my listeners, your fantastic singing voice. Absolutely
please. It was after Everybody Dreams in 2013 that I actually had a heart attack. I can remember very clearly driving down the road, sweating, my left arm hurting me. I actually thought I was having a stroke. I just didn't really think about young Black women having heart attacks. You know, it's like an old white man thing. That's what I thought anyway. Do you know what I mean? And it was like, when I finally presented myself to A&E, which was like 4 days later, you know, because as I was walking, it felt like I was climbing a mountain. My left arm was still hurting. I remember them calling me in, and I was saying, I looked at the queue in A&E, and I said to my aunt, "Oh no, I'm not staying. Oh, I can't be doing this." And she was saying, "Just go to triage, and then after that, we can just disappear. Just get tested." I said, "Okay, fine." So I got tested. I said, "You know, I've been having breathlessness. I've had a pain in my left arm, and I feel like I'm walking up a mountain, blah, blah, blah." And then they did an ECG and a blood test and said, "Sorry, you can't go home. You've had a heart attack." And I was like, "What?" You know, it was a shock. And then I had heart surgery the following year. I had a quadruple bypass. And it was like, oh my God. I decided after that, you know what, I'm not going back to school. It's just too much and whatever. And the head came around my house and said, "Oh, Juliet, you know, you can't leave teaching. If I cut your days down and keep your money." And I thought, ooh, 3 days, save money. And eventually I went back to school. But it was mornings only. I actually went back to school and then just got back into the whole, you know, treadmill again, as you do. I personally, in my role, I was up at 5 in the morning. I was in school by 6:30, 7:45. I stayed at school till sometimes 8 o'clock when the school site actually closed, and then still doing work because I still had to teach, you know, not many classes, because as deputy, you only like teach 4 lessons, but still having books to mark and not put my head on the pillow till 1, 2 o'clock sometimes. And that went on days. Because I said before, our school was Ofsted outstanding. I led Ofsted 3 times in a row, and we were outstanding on 3 occasions. And from where we came to with the 5% A-star to C's to hitting nearly 89% English, you know, and whatever, it took work. It took struggle. And I'm not just saying me, because the team, the staff team were brilliant. The leadership team was brilliant. The head was brilliant. It just took its toll, you know what I mean? And I just got back into the whole routine again. And I remember when I had the heart attack, my youngest was about 5 at the time. He wouldn't come home. And he said, "I'm staying with Nanny, you're going to die, you're going to die." And it just felt like I couldn't do anything to help him or save him. I'm saving other people's kids, you know what I mean? But my own, in my own backyard, you know, weren't coming home. And I spoke to my GP, and he advised play therapy. And my little boy went to play therapy and would come home and write down his thoughts and feelings, which was his like homework. And I think my daughter read over it and said, "Mum, have you read what Romeo's written?" And I said, "No." She said, "It's really good. Would you put it in a book?" And I remember reading it and, you know, crying my eyes out. The book we entitled Life About My Mummy, and he actually won an award for that book. And so every year...
an award-winning family, aren't you, really?
We don't want the awards, want the money, not really. So every year, as part of his healing, we would do a different book. So we did a book about Romeo's Guide to London Architecture. He loved Lego. Romeo's Guide to Free London, Part 1, and then we did this book called Hey Black Boy, about when a black boy looks in the mirror, what characteristic is looking back at him and who's that role model. So if you looked in the mirror and saw courage, looking back at him was Martin Luther King, and so forth. And that book, I mean, we printed 100 and it sold out in just over a week. It's still one of our most popular titles. And then someone came to me and said, "Where's Hey Black Girl?" And it's like, oh, because it was just a Romeo project. And a friend of mine at work said, "Hey, take my daughter for some holidays. She'll be an author," and gave her to me. And she wrote Hey Black Girl. The confidence, the raised self-esteem that Romeo got, and I saw with this little girl called Brianna, by being called an author at 7 years old, 8 years old, transformed him. And I realized I was onto something good. So in my holidays, while I was still teaching, I would work with children, get them to write stories. And there was one woman who contacted me because she read one of our books, and her daughter had alopecia and was saying that she doesn't want to go to school, she's crying her eyes out, she's being bullied and whatever else it is. Please, can you help her? So we sat down with her, and actually this one over Zoom because it was a pandemic. We wrote this book called I Am Not My Hair, and it was her journey. Her mum used to say to her, "You are brave, you are smart, you are beautiful." And we had that in the book ever so often, and we printed that up. This young girl, my goodness, she's got more Instagram followers than me. Do you know what I mean? She is a mini celebrity in her own right. The confidence that she's had. She's gone to her school with her book, and she's told each class about her journey doing assembly. She's won a police commendation for her work, and it's transformed her. So for me, it was like, do you know what? Do you know what I mean? If I can continue doing this while I'm teaching, great. But 5 years after the heart attack, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer, and I had to have a colectomy, which means they took out my large intestines and gave me a bag. I wasn't happy because Gucci and all those designer names is the bags that I want, but not the bag that I end up having. So after I had that bag, you know what I mean, I said to myself, do you know what? It's time to bow out gracefully from teaching, which I did, but continued with the publishing company. I've worked with hundreds of children. I've published 60 in 23 books. So I run my own publishing company now called Young Lit Stars. All of the authors are children aged between 6 and 15. Over the pandemic, I did another project where I got 27 children from all over the UK and one from Zimbabwe who interviewed their grandparents and told their grandparents' stories in this book called Our Roots. One of the grandparents, her great-granddaughter, interviewed her, but died 3 days after she was interviewed. But her story and her legacy is in this book. I'm still working with children. I'm still enjoying being with children, even though I'm not on the front line in the way that I used to be when it comes to teaching on a day-to-day basis. I think I was telling you, the best thing about teaching is the impact that you have on young lives. And there were children that we had a motto at our school called Dream It, believe it, achieve it. And a lot of children went on to do amazing things from a little old school in Tottenham. So we had Manuel Frimpong became an Arsenal first team player and played also Ghana. We've had Chipmunk, the rapper, hit #1 in the national charts with a song with Chris Brown from America. We had a guy who would make beats all the time and get kicked out of class because he wasn't focused, called Nana, who when I bumped into him, he told me that he'd just produced a song for Drake, which just sold millions of copies. But another guy called Elijah Pochi. I turn on my TV on a Friday night watching Channel 4. It's this program called Peng Life. We've got students that were PhD, who are PhD graduates, students that are GPs. One of my students I used to always put in detention, wrote to me to tell me he's a lead cardiothoracic surgeon at the Royal Brompton Hospital. Little Ricky, who I used to put in detention, he couldn't save himself. So just that alone, knowing that children can be anything that they want to be, whether you come from little old or you come from Chipinonga. And that's been the beauty. My favourite day of the whole year was always GCSE results day. I cut my holiday short, make sure I was in school, giving out results, because a lot of the children, that's where their choices began, on that day, moving forward. So yeah, all good, all good.
Well, on that note, which I think people are sitting here thinking, God, I hope my child has got teachers like that at their school.
There are many teachers. I'm not the exception to the rule. That we get a lot of bad press, and through the strikes going on at the moment. But there are many teachers, many. All the people that I worked with, went over and above when it came to the children because they wanted them to do well. So it's not a Juliet thing. You know what I mean? It is a teacher thing.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a governor at secondary school, and I was a governor at my son's sort of primary school. And the thing about the teachers striking at the moment, when you actually tell people, the part of the reason they're doing that is terms and conditions. These are the hours that they actually do. They're not doing 9 to
9 till
3.
3:30.
Yeah, they're not doing 9 to 3, 39 weeks of the year. They're absolutely not. And do you have any idea of what they did through COVID?
Oh, exactly. And I
are you aware?
encourage people. I mean, well done, being a school governor. I encourage people to be doing that, take on those kind of roles. I mean, I still do voluntary work 1 day a week at a primary school in Hackney. So I'm still in contact with the children. I'm still helping the children read. I'm still doing, because I'm a parent first and foremost. You know what I mean? But I love children, and it's not something that people can't do. You can be a part of the school community and support and do what you can do. So well done. I commend you for doing that. I mean, when the George Floyd incident happened and everybody was angry and upset about it and stuff like that, my first thought was, well, what can I do to make a difference? And I then signed up to MOPAC, and I'm a ICV, which is an independent custody visitor. So I make unannounced visits to police stations in Hackney. Well, there's only one really main one, so Stoke Newington, and also to Bethnal Green Police Station. And I check on the welfare and the well-being of the detainees, right? They don't get no notice. Me and somebody else on the team will go together, we go in pairs, and we'll say, let's rock up at 2 o'clock this morning, in the morning. Come on, let's go down there. So 2 o'clock in the morning, rock up, phone up from reception and say, is this the custody suite? We're here to come and check your custody suite. And we go in, we've got our set of questions. How many of you strip searched today? How many have you used a spit guard today? Have they had access to lawyers? And we talk to the actual detainees in the cells to see if they've been fed. Have they been given their rights? Are they warm? Do they want a book to read? And whatever. And then write up that report and email it to MOPAC. So there's so much that people can do. There's so much out there that can help make people's lives better. And that's all I want to do while I'm here. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure that if people knew about what was going on, they would probably take part and do stuff as well.
Yeah,
because
that's it, isn't it? It's about sort of telling people and informing them. I've been trying to get people to come and talk to our school, our kids, about careers, and people didn't know that they could come and do this. And
it makes a difference. It makes a difference.
And it can be hugely motivating, particularly when some people sort of talk about their journey into how they got to places and and how they struggled. And
I mean, I came from Pembury Estate in Hackney, which is a bit like Broadwater Farm in Tottenham. Bang down estate in Hackney. All of my friends were on free school meal, but I read. And my family took reading really seriously. I had a library card, and we lived, and I remember my mother buying a whole set of Encyclopedia Britannicas, which was over £1,000. And
I remember that.
Man he'd come every week to collect a payment. You know what I mean? Because they believed that reading and books were the key. And for me, I mean, I was 20, it was 23 before I ever got on a plane. But before that, because I read, I'd been to Bethlehem, Wonderland. I'd been to, Through the Wardrobe in Narnia. So my view and my psyche was well wide open because of books. And I tried to explain to people that books transformed my life. I used to write to Heinemann and Penguin and say, I've got a book idea, about this person, that person, or whatever, and I get rejection letters, every 6 weeks. But nowadays, you don't need permission from anybody. I am now a publisher of 25 books. I publish 6 and 3/4-year-olds. I don't have to wait for a big, massive publishing company to say, yes, okay, we'll publish your story. When I had cancer, I said, boy, I've had heart surgery, now I've got cancer. I think my time's probably up soon. Let me write my book. So I wrote my book, 39 Weeks, Life Behind the School Gates. I published my book, you know what I mean? I read the audio to my book. You know, I put videos on social media of episodes of my book. And we're currently in discussion with the screenplay writer to make a film of my book. So we don't have to seek permission from anybody anymore, not in this day and age. You know, you can make your own singles in your bedroom. Do you know what I mean?
There's more profit to be had in self-publishing too.
Absolutely. Amazon, you know how much Amazon take, don't they? You know, but yes, absolutely, absolutely. The world is your oyster. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, that has been absolutely fantastic, Julia. I could talk to you for hours, obviously. But where can people find you?
Okay, so the children's books, we have a website called www.younglit, lit as in literature or lit as in lit, Young Lit Stars. So younglitstars.com, that's where we can find the children's books. I've actually written 4 books. I've just completed a Windrush book, which is going to be out on Mother's Day, called Mothers of Zion. On social media, I'm on Twitter. I don't really tweet much because I don't want to be hated. So I keep my thoughts to myself. But I'm on Twitter and it's Juliet Coley, BCAE. I thought I'd use that. Yeah. No, on LinkedIn, I'm Juliet Coley, BCAE. On Instagram, I'm Blackjack Media, which is my company. On Facebook, I'm Jules, BCAE. That's how you can get hold of me. Or you can email me on iamjulietcoley@gmail.com. That's me.
Well, that has been an absolute pleasure talking to you, Juliet.
Thank you, Helen, for the opportunity.
So much for your time. And you've been listening to the Complaining Cow Consumer Show on East London Radio. And if you've got any consumer issues you'd like me to talk about or people you'd like me to interview, you can contact me on helen@eastlondonradio.org.uk. And you can find me at www.thecomplainingcow.co.uk, where you can find lots of information and advice for free on consumer rights and topical consumer issues. You can find me on Twitter @ComplainingCow, and on Instagram and Facebook on @The Complaining Cow. And so just leaves me to say thanks for listening and see you next time.